Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. I'm Don,
And I'm Jonathan.
and today we are talking about the 2025 Oscar nominated for Best Actress film, Hamnet, starring Jessie Buckley, in a wow.
Yeah, yeah,
She's really good in this film.
yep,
Um, I'm not sure what else to say about this. I will say this much. I was just mentioned to Jonathan that when I watched this with my youngest son, he uh, he said when it was over, he says we should watch Hamlet now. And I put Hamlet on the 1990 Franco Zeffirelli version, and he got about 10 minutes in. He says, "I don't get it. I'm going to bed." But I watched the whole film. I
yeah,
watched all of Hamlet again, which I
yeah.
have seen a number of times.
Sure, sure.
And I think I appreciated it even more this time after having watched this film.
Yeah, I thought about actually doing that. I thought about doing the Kenneth Branagh one, um,
Uh,
and I haven't yet, but I have been thinking about doing it because this does a wonderful job. It doesn't give you too much because it focuses up really on two scenes, but it really in an interesting way kind of helps you understand maybe what was motivating those scenes. Um, and so it does give it a lot of poignance to it. Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, if you've, seen the play or you've seen any of the movie versions, or at least the old English movie versions, I think this film is going to, it's going to give you a deeper appreciation for those.
Yeah.
Um, but let's go to themes. Let's go to themes. What do you want to talk about first, John?
Well, the low hanging fruit, and this might be one of the lowest hanging I've ever seen, is um, is the power of art for redemption and healing. Like
Yeah.
it's just the la. I would tell people this movie I think is very powerful. It's powerfully done, but the first 40 minutes are kind of slow because they're setting you up for the relationship that will lead to the kids, that will lead ultimately to the passing of the son, and then we'll kind of move toward the catharsis of of Hamlet. Basically, the I believe the author of the book, it's historical fiction uh, book that this movie's based on. I believe she probably makes the argument that he wrote Hamlet to kind of deal with his demons around the loss of his son. Um, and so, they feel like they need to set that up. I'll be honest, I feel like I could have done more with time with the kids or more with them kind of struggling with the death than I
Mhm.
could have the time of kind of their romance. I felt like I understand they fall in love and I need a little bit of that, but I felt like they overdid the romance piece of it, I'll be honest.
Okay.
But but having said that, they do an amazing job, especially the last 30 minutes of, especially with the Jesse Buckley character, the Agnes, his wife. She does an amazing job of healing through watching this play, and her facial expressions of joy, relief, pain, um, kind of ecstasy at the end when she kind of realizes what he's trying to communicate in this play.
Mhm.
She does an amazing job of facial acting. I don't know how else to, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
well, I think you
yeah,
said it last week that
yeah,
that she's already won of any of
yeah,
these film awards that have come out already. She's already won Best Actress on every
yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
And you can see why.
Yes, and even I can't think of the actor's name who plays Hamlet here, but or not Hamlet, sorry, Shakespeare. Um, I can't think of his name. I'm
Yeah.
blanking on him. But anyway, he does a powerful job of he in the movie they have Shakespeare portray the father, the ghost in Hamlet, where Hamlet opens with the father of Hamlet kind of haunts Hamlet to do something about his death. And also, it's a moment of him saying goodbye to his son. And in the movie, they make the argument that he wrote that to be able to say goodbye to Hamnet, to say goodbye to the son that he lost. And he does a powerful job of that scene of kind of the angst of saying goodbye. And again, this movie is just a beautiful representation of this idea that art exists because we use it as human beings to heal ourselves and heal one another.
Yeah, and that's a huge healing angle in this is the grief
Yeah,
because the loss of a child in this storyline it creates this huge rift between them,
yeah,
and each goes in their own direction to cope with
yeah,
that loss. And the healing dynamic becomes the play in the
yeah,
end.
yeah.
I thought this was really interesting. I don't know if you caught this, but the actor who plays young Hamnet
Yeah.
is the younger brother of the actor who plays Hamlet in the play at the end of the film.
Oh no, I didn't. That's pretty powerful. Yeah,
Yes. They're both boys. The last name is Job,
yeah,
but they're brothers, which
yeah.
is why you look at them, they look so much alike. They didn't just find actors who looked alike, they found siblings.
Yes. No, that's a really good choice. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But just so people know, kind of, I'm sure there's more to this, but the basic piece of why some people argue that he wrote this in relationship to his son dying is Hamnet and Hamlet at the time were synonymous names. It was kind of
Yeah.
like uh, James and Jim. It was kind of that kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And then also, he writes it about three and a half years after the death of his son. So, it connects time wise with that idea. So,
It's also interesting. There was and I got this from watching, doing a little research and watching some videos afterwards that there was so when Shakespeare was leaving to go to the theater and write.
yeah,
And he's when he leaves Hamnet, his son, he waves to him 3 times.
yeah,
In the play at the end, when you see that kind of grief, that cathartic
yeah,
grief moment, um, he says to him adieu 3 times,
3 times.
which is like, oh man, come on.
Yeah,
It's give it this much, and I say this when it's obvious.
yeah,
It's a tearjerker. It yanks the heartstrings pretty hard. Um, Not a bad way.
yeah. No, no, not at
Not in a
all.
bad way. I think you're right. This is not only do I think that the film speaks to art that heals. I think the film is art that heals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Chloe Zhao is the woman who directed this
Director.
and wrote this. She won a couple years ago for Nomadland. Uh,
Hmm.
she's one of those directors now that I will pay attention to and want to see her movies. She does an amazing job with this, and she gets really powerful performances from three little kids.
Yeah,
Like, they are amazing little actors, and she gets amazing performances out of them. I
yeah,
mean, the little boy who plays Hamnet has to make you believe he is essentially being tortured as he's dying, and you are just right in there with him, and you feel so bad for her, you feel so bad for him, you feel so bad for his twin sister who's watching. She was on some level preparing to die herself, and she recovers and he doesn't. And it's just a really the last hour of this movie is just a powerful emotional film, just in deep ways.
yeah. Yeah. So what else? We have I want to talk about themes, grief and loss.
Yeah,
Um Depression. That
yeah,
is kind of the angle that Agnes, they pronounce it Agnes. Anne, I think they called her Anne,
yeah,
Agnes.
yeah,
It's spelled Agnes,
yeah, yeah,
but whatever. That's kind of where she goes.
yeah,
She becomes very depressed.
yeah,
Um, Thankfully, I think it's not, at least in the film, it's not this toxic depression because sometimes one person depressed in a household can destroy an entire household.
Yeah,
And as pastors, I think we've seen it. Um, but it is definitely that is her coping mechanism is to kind of withdraw from the world.
yeah,
Um, and that's not the best way to deal with it.
yeah. I mean, in the movie, she's portrayed as someone who's deeply ingrained in nature,
Hmm.
and she clearly goes to the forest, goes to nature when she wants to deal with things, when she wants to escape, and that's kind of you kind of see this image of her doing that. You see that the argument's kind of made in the movie that Shakespeare used his art to cope and used his art as a place he hid
Hmm.
when he was struggling with life. You know, they make the her brother makes a comment when they go and toward the end of the movie to go kind of find Shakespeare, and you get a sense that the brother's trying to help piece back the marriage that's kind of falling apart. And they walk into this very small studio that Shakespeare's been writing from, and he goes like he's choosing to live here when he has the biggest house in Stratford, like and you realize that at least in the movies kind of world that it's building, Shakespeare has hit himself off in not in the woods of his own making, which is his art. He's using his art to kind of hide from dealing with his relationship with Anne and also the loss of his son. You know,
Realistically, no less isolated than she is,
yeah,
which is uh, heartbreaking.
yeah,
But again, I don't know if we can say enough about the impact of that final scene.
yeah,
That final scene of the play where Hamlet realizes he's gonna die and he
yeah,
has this soliloquy that like Agnes gets right into it and reaches out her hand like she's gonna save him.
yeah,
Uh yeah, I can't even think about that scene without kind of welling up because
yeah,
it was just so intense.
yeah. And
Um
the looks that they have Will Shakespeare, of course, positioned kind of offset, off screen, but kind of looking through the opening of the backdrop. And there's a couple times they catch each other's eyes, and there's just this moment of like it's a beautiful scene of like them both healing and them both kind of saying forgiving each other and kind of recognizing that they both were deeply scarred by his death and they both were looking for ways to heal and both kind of you almost get this weird sense of them recommitting to their own relationship in those brief moments when he sees her from the stage. So how yeah,
yeah, and I think that's also for her it's a realization of I think prior to that she felt like he didn't feel anything.
yeah,
That to him the loss was just like throwing away a piece of trash or something. And in that moment you get the sense she realizes that he has been grieving as deeply as she has, just in a different way.
yeah. Yeah,
um
I thought one of the things I thought about in this movie is the the call we all have and the need we all have to find ways to communicate to the people who are important in our lives
yeah,
and to recognize that sometimes that communication is not going to be straightforward or in the way we want it, but the real need we have to really try to find ways to really truly communicate with the people that we care about.
yeah, yeah. And that's not even one of your notes, Jonathan.
Yeah,
But truly powerful, right?
yeah,
The idea that if you and I've said this about like my own marriage and when I've counseled couples, like you need to be able to say the most intimate things or the places where you hurt the most with the people that love you the most. Because if you can't communicate that stuff to those people, you can't communicate it, period.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is again, this is a powerful film that speaks directly to that.
Yeah.
Um, what else do we want to say?
Also, I think it was is a good exploration. I mean, we don't get as much as again. I would have liked more about the creation of the play and the kind of him building the world and all those kind of things. But the creative process, the kind of the difficulty of creating something,
Mhm.
kind of how it is really kind of pulling out a piece of your own heart or your own soul. You
Yeah.
know, I think it was really well done. The moments where he's desperate to get the actors to communicate what he has written and to say it the way he needs them to say it so that he can allow it to live it out. He's basically saying in without saying it, he kind of feels like he's communicating, look, you're not saying it the way it is in my head, and I need you to say it the way it is in my head so I can be free of it, so I can let it go. And just that scene of over and over again, no, say it again, no, say it again, was just again, I guess in a way, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like sometimes our most creative moments are creating sermons. And, sometimes you kind of go over it in your head till you feel like you can hear it outside of your head. And it has the same impact as what you're trying to communicate. And that moment really hit me because that's kind of how I feel sometimes. Like, how do I how do I say this in a way that the congregation is going to hear it the way it's been rolling around in me all week? You know.
Yeah. And let's be honest with ourselves. We still don't always hit the mark.
No, no, no. And neither of us, I think we can safely say neither of us are Shakespeare. So
Close. Um, that's but look, this is I find it interesting. You may not have this experience that I have right now because I serve two churches.
yeah,
So I preach the same sermon at both churches.
yeah.
So more often than not, sorry, St. John's, more often than not, it's better delivery at the second
Yeah,
service. Uh,
for a while I had two churches and I would agree. The second time you do it, it's usually stronger.
just, because you go, oh, like after you've said something already in the and you go, that didn't land. No. All right. And you change it,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um anyway.
Uh,
Now we're letting the cat out of the bag with our churches now. Jeez.
no, but I mean, I do think I don't know. I again, this isn't a religious movie really at all, but yet I felt like she was trying to communicate. I'll give her more credit because she, of course, wrote it. I feel like Zhao is trying to communicate this idea that creativity is sacred and art is sacred,
Hmm.
and I would really agree with that. Like I granted we can all throw up examples of horrible art that is not anything but horrible. But I think the best art, the art like Shakespeare's plays and sonnets and that last, hundreds of years, the best art um, is is kind of infused with the divine, and there is something sacred about it, and there is something sacred when you experience it. You know,
And it's interesting to even say that because there's times I listen to what my kids are in
yeah,
eighth grade, sophomore, college.
yeah,
And I listen to the stuff that, they're studying.
yeah,
And I feel like, what happened to the classics? Why don't we read Shakespeare anymore? Why don't we read Greek mythology anymore? Why don't like I don't know. I think we've gotten away from that in society, and a film like this is refreshing
Yeah.
because it really does bring that stuff back.
Well, yeah,
Um,
I think it reminds you, like, to me, I granted your son didn't have this experience, but maybe later on he will. But I think even sometimes when the language from Shakespeare can go over your head, and I think for most of us it can from times, um, there are still moments in it where it draws you in powerful ways,
oh yeah.
and really just kind of, especially when you know what's happening, when you know, like, the idea that he's lost his father because of an assassination, and he's struggling with the fact that his uncle and his mother were involved in that assassination, and how is he going to deal with it, and that conflicted nature of, should I just crawl up in a ball and die, or should I do something about that? When you know that's happening, that soliloquy hits so hard.
Yeah.
It just knocks you to the ground.
The other side of that, and somebody said to me, because I watched it's not often I do this. Usually I watch the film like the night before or 2 days
Yeah,
before we record.
yeah,
This I watched like last week.
okay,
And I was talking with some folks about it.
yeah,
And one of the things that I heard said a couple of different times was, I just can't get into Shakespeare. I don't understand it. Look, you don't have to completely understand Elizabethan English
yes,
to understand Shakespeare, particularly acted.
yes,
Okay. I get it. It's hard to read. It's
yes,
one of the reasons I don't read the King James Version of the Bible. It's
yeah,
hard to read.
yeah,
Okay. But when when Shakespeare is acted out,
yeah,
it's more about understanding the flow and the story and getting the emotion, than it is about understanding every single word that's spoken.
yeah,
And that is artistic.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I thought to myself, I don't think there's ever been a modern kind of retelling of Hamlet in the same way they've done Romeo and Juliet. And I kind of wondered if Hamlet would benefit from something like that, because there's so much going on in the in the play, and there's so many layers that it might be easier if you set it in 21st century LA, and you'd have to do some interesting things to it, but it'd be interesting to see how that went.
gangsta, you mean like West Side Story?
Yep. Um, yeah, but to me, I really, and especially, I don't know, I'm sure you've gotten this, and it's very common. So in kindergarten, like, almost 90% of children will say they're creative. If you ask them again in fourth grade, only 30% of them will say they're creative. And we somehow, in very sad ways, beat out the idea that people are creative. And I'm sure you've encountered people that go like, I'm just not creative. And you're just like, yeah, you are. You've convinced
Just
yourself you're not.
you just haven't found your creative outlet. Everybody has one.
Yeah,
Everybody has a creative side. There's something within you that has that urge to make something,
yeah,
to make something of value, to something, we all have it. It's just we all approach it differently.
yeah.
Um,
It made me think about trying to encourage people more to do creative things, because this movie really reminded me something I know in my bones, but I don't sometimes think about it, which is, art is freeing, art is life-giving, art is healing. You
hmm.
know, you know.
Yeah, and let's be fair. I mean, this film is I think Jessie Buckley will probably win the Academy Award for this, for
Yes.
her acting. But I think there's a lot of other ones on the table that this could take. When you look at costume design and production design and things like that, this film is beautifully
Yeah.
produced.
Yes.
And I think those things will show up at the, not that I don't watch the Academy Awards anymore. I used to. It doesn't, it holds no charm for me anymore, really, but I like talking about the films. I don't know, I'm weird like that. But I this of the films that we have watched this
Yeah.
year, at least the ones that are, the ones that have been nominated for this year, this film seems to stand out for those particular things.
Yeah.
I'm still, was this nominated Best Picture? I don't think
I
I
don't
think
think
it
it
was.
was. Yeah.
So I'm still on the Sinner's train for,
Yeah.
for this picture.
Yeah.
But
Um, yeah.
um anyway, so what else anything else we want to talk about here?
Um, yeah, I mean, I thought it was again, it wasn't a shocker. But also the idea that William Shakespeare was verbally abused, maybe physically abused as a child from his father,
Hmm.
and that idea again of sometimes abuse leads to weird expressions of creativity and kind of that kind of relationship sometimes of that again we sometimes use art to deal with abuse and neglect and kind of the trauma in our lives.
Well, and I mean, haven't we seen it even in modern day? Some of the most creative people um, in our society are people maybe not abused, but certainly people who were had issues. I'm thinking particularly like Robin Williams,
Yeah.
dealt with depression and anxiety, and you would never have pictured that. Just knowing Robin Williams from being on television and movies, you never would have guessed depression and anxiety were big challenges for him.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah. I also love the line. It's a very romantic line in the first part of the movie, but well, actually, two lines from pretty early on in the movie, and then one of them comes back a couple times. The first one was Anne talking about why she loved this poorer um, artist, and she goes, "He loves me for who I am, not what I will be." And I love that idea because to me that speaks powerfully about I think the love God has for us is God loves us for who we are, not just who we will be. Although I do think
indeed.
but I do think God sees who we will be, and I think that does shape God's love for us. But still, I love that line. And then the other line that I thought I think it comes up two or three times in the movie, but the line "Live with your heart open." You know, um, I think I could say I've struggled with my own life of being hurt, having a loss, and then wanting to shut down. And I love the idea of no, no, you need to live with your heart open. You need to live, uh, exposed to the danger of being hurt because that's really the only way you can experience love. You know,
Yeah. A guarded heart is an empty heart, right?
yeah.
Hey, I just made that up.
There you go. I see a new card greeting card in your future.
Anything else we want to say about Hamnet? Definitely recommend.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely worth seeing. I'd encourage people to see it. It's on HBO Max. It can be a little slow at the beginning, but it really is worth the payoff. So
Yeah. Yeah. The payoff. You, I think you have to get, I have to go through the whole film to get that payoff
yeah,
because it is integral to the storyline, but the payoff, wow. Yeah.
yeah,
So that is Hamnet for this week.
yeah,
Now, as we move on to next week,
yeah,
um, this is sort of a momentous occasion. Okay. Today, I don't mention it normally at the opening because I don't always know, but today is episode 99. So next week's episode is episode 100
Yeah,
of this podcast, which is kind of a big deal. We've been doing it for actually a little over 2 years. We've
yeah,
missed a week or two here and there,
yeah,
all told. And we started out with Evan, and we keep Evan in our prayers. We know he's having some challenges right now, and we're
yeah,
thinking about you, buddy. We always are.
yeah.
Um, but for episode 100, I wanted to do something special. So I went back to the American Film Institute's list of the top 100 films of all time,
Yeah.
and I went to number one. So we've already talked about this. Jonathan knows. I'm building up the suspense. Jonathan already knows that next week we're going to watch Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Now, you will find it if you are so inclined and maybe haven't seen it, which I'll admit I have not seen it.
You
Um,
haven't seen it?
I haven't. No.
Oh my
So
gosh.
so
Okay. Okay.
I was never a big fan of black and white films. What can I say? Other than It's a Wonderful Life. I love that film. But um Citizen Kane, you'll find it on Amazon Prime. It's a one-time rental.
Yeah.
I think it's like 350 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be next week. We will watch AFI's number one film, Citizen Kane.
We should have watched the 100th movie.
We should have just gone down the list numerically.
Nope. I did that
Except
one. Yep.
Except that there's a lot of films on that list that we have not talked about.
No.
And there's a lot of films on our list that would make the AFI 100,
No. Nope.
not even in their own category.
Nope.
All right, friends. So next week's film is Citizen Kane. Until next week, take care and God bless. Keep on finding God in the dark. Bye now.
Bye.
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. And friends, if you find anything that's really wonderful or entertaining or helpful in your Christian walk, we want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. We publish every Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we hope that you continue to find these videos and these discussions entertaining and informative. Take care and God bless. Bye.